こんにちは、皆様。今日のボードゲームがアルス・アルキミア。このゲームは1時間かかります。2人から4人まで。このゲームがいいですよ。Hello folks, that was my Japanese, and this is Ars Alchimia, a nice little game from Japan, published by Tasty Minstrel Games. This game is a worker placement board game for 2 to 4 players. It's a nice little game. As you see, it comes in a small little compact game box. You're going to be surprised by all the stuff that is contained in this little box here. That's quite impressive. This game is fairly easy, fairly simple, but it's a lot of fun to play. In this game, you are gathering resources to create magical items in the beautiful city of Alchimia. So, without further ado, let's get this game set up on my table and let's play Ars Alchimia. Take a look at the beautiful artwork that we got on this box. I really dig this kind of artwork. I think this illustration is really cool. And I also really like the board. Right there we got some pretty stunning artwork. Let me zoom in a little closer. That is the beautiful magic city of Alchimia. I love this board. The illustration is gorgeous. This board is really, really nice. If you take a closer look here at the board, you see that we got these rectangles that are sprinkled pretty much all over the board. They represent different areas in the city of Alchimia. The 6 rectangles down here, for example, they make up for the lively city market, which is the most buzzing area in the city of Alchimia. To set up the game for 4 players, we're going to cover these 6 rectangles with these cards. We're going to place down 3 green cards, then 2 yellow, and 1 red. If you need to set up the game for just 2 players, remember that you have to remove one of these 2 yellow cards. Okay, just keep that in mind. These cards are called order cards. They represent orders that are placed here at the city market by the merchants who come to visit the city of Alchimia. These are orders for magical items like magical artifacts and equipment that can be purchased only here in the city of Alchimia. We're going to have to create these items from scratch using magic, combining the resources that are listed here on these cards. Let's take a closer look at these order cards. You see these cards are of different colors because they are of different levels. There's a letter down here at the bottom that reminds you of the level of the order. The green orders are the easiest to complete. They generally give you fewer points but also require fewer resources. Then we got the yellow orders that are a little bit more difficult. And then the red orders that are the hardest to complete, like this Philosopher's Stone, for example. This card is going to give you 15 points, but it's going to require a variety of resources. You see the symbols up here? They're all different. During the course of the game, you're going to try and complete orders of the same type, like these 2 orders here. By doing that, you're going to get more points at the end of the game. The game is played over a series of 4 rounds. At the end of the 4th round, there's going to be a final scoring, and if you end up with more points than the other players, you're going to be the winner of the game. Right there, you got a player board that you're going to use to keep track of all the resources that you collect during the game. All the players start with 1 green, 1 blue, 1 red, 0 white and 0 gold. The golden resource is special. It's different from the other 4 resources. I'm going to tell you more about it later on in this video. Now you may be wondering, how do I gather these special resources, the resources that are listed on these order cards? To do that, you need to venture out of the city of Alchimia. You need to cross this big boundary wall that protects the city. And here you're going to explore location cards that are going to be revealed from this location deck. You're going to place down locations based on the number of players again. If you play the game with just 2 players, remember that you do not need to place down a 3rd location card. Here we're setting up the game for 4 players, so we need to reveal a 3rd location. These locations, they're going to give players different colors and different resources. Okay? Now, this is a worker placement game, so all you have to do in this game is just pick a worker and place it on one of these cards. If, for example, you place your worker here, this location, then you're going to gather the resources that are listed there on the card. Let's take a closer look at this card, for example. This card is a forest. This is the vast forest of Methys, right there. This card is going to give us 3 green resources and an extra red resource if you roll a 5 or a 6. You see here, you can get extra resources by rolling the die, and if you're lucky enough and you get a 5 or a 6, you can gather an extra red resource. So let's do that right now. Let's roll the die. Okay, if we get a 5 or a 6, we can get an extra resource. And we get a 6, so we do get an extra resource. Alright, now we're going to adjust the cubes on our player board. So +3 green, +1 red. Now we have 4 green resources, 1 blue and 2 red. Alright, now if you want to have a greater chance of getting that extra resource, you can place extra workers there. Like if you decide to place, for example, 3 workers, then you're gonna get a +1 to your die roll for each extra worker that you place there. So here in this case, you will get a bonus of +2 to your die roll. Alright? Here we were really lucky, we were able to roll a 6 just with 1 worker. You can place your worker also next to the location deck. Here you do not know the location that is going to come out from the top. You're going to reveal the card. Let's take a look at this card here, for example. Okay, doesn't seem to focus. There you go. So this card is the Depths of Moira. It looks like a location from Lord of the Rings. This card is going to give us 2 white resources. Then we get to roll the die. If we get a 6, we can claim an extra green resource, alright? Now this card is going to go on the bottom of the deck. And this is pretty much how you can use this location deck. Now if you want to claim one of these order cards, you just have to do the same. You can place your worker next to one of these cards. At the beginning of the game, you can claim only green cards, because these are the orders of the lowest level. Then as the game progresses and you gain more experience, you'll be able to claim yellow cards and red cards. So let's take one of these orders. Let's take a look first here at the resources that we got. You see, we've got a lot of green, so we may want to pick an order that is going to allow us to spend some of our green. So I think our best bet here will be this order right there in the middle. We collect this order card here. We're going to place it underneath our player board right there. You see here we've got room for up to 3 orders, and now a new order is going to be revealed from the respective deck. It's important to note that the location cards are never claimed by the players. The players only get the resources that are listed on the cards, whereas these cards here are claimed by the players and removed from the board. There's another interesting area down here. Here we're going to reveal assistant cards from the top of this blue deck. Oh. These assistant cards are really unique. And here we can claim one of these assistants by simply placing, again, our worker next to one of these cards. And then we can claim the card, and a new assistant card is going to be revealed from the deck. Let's take a look at these assistants, because they're very cool. So these are like your typical chibi characters that you got in your favorite anime series. These cards are really nice. They're all different, and each card comes with its unique ability that you can try to exploit in your game to gain an advantage over the opponent. Here we got the Private Secretary, the Investigating Fairy, the Experienced Hunter, and the Fairy of the Forge. Alright, these are really cute, very nice characters. And you see here, we got a ton of these cards because we got this big deck here full of cards. So now the Secretary is in our factory right there. The Secretary is now here in our play area. Remember that when you have claimed this assistant card, remember that now you have it, that's yours, and you can use the effect that is listed here on this card as much as you want, whenever you need to, okay? An interesting aspect of this game, an interesting mechanic of this game, is that during the course of a game, all the players are going to place workers here on the board, and the board is going to get pretty crowded. Okay, it's gonna look something like this. Okay, then it's very possible that a player may want to claim a card where we already have one of our workers. So, for example, let's say that the yellow player would like to get this assistant card here. He will have to place 2 workers there to remove our orange worker. The orange worker will be placed here. This area of the board is called the town square, where we got that beautiful fountain you see there. And now the yellow worker will be able to claim this assistant, that will go underneath his player board right there, and a new assistant card will be revealed from the top of the deck. Now, if a purple wanted to come down here and claim this assistant, he will have to place 3 workers to remove the 2 yellow ones. All the workers that end up here in this area of the board, they're just going to stay there until the end of the round. The round is over when all the players have run out of workers, okay? This is pretty interesting. This is a very interesting mechanic. Up there, you got the last area of the board, where we still have to unveil. Let me zoom in a little. You see that area over there. There we got this big building that is the Academy of Magic of the city of Alchimia. Here we're going to place this forge deck. We're going to reveal 2 cards from its top. These are the alchemical forges that we can use to create our magical items. There we can send one of our workers. We can choose one of these 2 cards, or we can choose also to place our worker next to the deck right there, like we did for the location deck. We're going to choose this card here because we just have one order that we can complete. And you see this card, okay, this card here, it's essentially just one big melting pot. This symbol allows us to just create one single magical item. Whenever you do that, you also get to roll the die. And when you roll the die, if you get, like in this case, if you get a result that is higher than 1, you can score a point. That's going to happen like all the time because it's impossible to get lower than 1. So we're always going to get a point whenever we use this card to create a magical item. This card here instead, for example, is a bit more powerful. With this card, if you got all the necessary resources, then you can create 3 magical items all at once. And every time you do that, if you roll the die and you get a 4, a 5, or a 6, you can get an extra point. Sorry. So now, right now, we have an order right there underneath our player board. Let's complete our first order. We're going to spend 2 green, 1 blue, 1 red to create this bread of happiness, which in Japanese is shiawase no pan. And you see the Japanese script right there. And yes, I do speak a bit of Japanese. Now, we're going to spend 2 green, 1 blue, 1 red. We get 4 points plus the point that is provided by this card. So we're going to score 5 points in total. We're going to place this wooden token matching our color over there on the score track. The score track goes all around the board, you see. Now we could also use these symbols here to create the golden resource. I mentioned this resource before. This resource is not harvested from locations like you do for the other 4 resources. This resource here instead is created at the Academy by using, for example here, 1 red and 1 green. By using these 2 resources of different colors, you can create 1 gold resource. These golden resources are worth points at the end of a game. Now, the game is played over a series of 4 rounds. You're going to shuffle these 4 cards, and you're going to deal one of these cards at random to each player. Then you reveal these cards. In this case, for example, we are going to be the 3rd player, whereas the purple player is going to be the 1st player. Now, at the beginning of every round, including the very first round of the game, all the players are going to increase their workforce by the number indicated on their turn order card. Since we are going to be the 3rd player, we're gonna grab this bag here from the box, and we're gonna add 3 pawns right there. we're gonna add them to our reserve. All the players start the game with 9 workers plus the number indicated here on this card. Then turn order is going to change over the course of the game, and basically when we get to play a new round, there's going to be a reset here of the board. All the workers are going to go back to their owners, and we're going to place new cards on the board. Then, starting from the player with the lowest score, all the players will be able to claim one of these cards here. And let's say that we performed very poorly during the first round, and we are the player with the lowest score right now. We decide to go first. We get to take an extra pawn from the bag, and then we get to play as the first player for that round. Okay, so this is pretty much how the game plays. Then, when you have played 4 rounds, if you end up with more points than the other players, you're going to be the winner of the game. Here are my final thoughts about Ars Alchimia. What do I think about this game? I think this game is really nice, and it was definitely a very nice discovery. I was really surprised to see how all of these beautiful components can actually fit inside this small game box here. Before I tell you more, there's one thing that I would like to show you. It's another game that I think we need to take a look at, okay? I've got it right here. This game here. You've probably never seen it before, you've probably never heard of this game before, because this is my own game. It's a combat card game with a deck building mechanic at its core. It's a game set in space, and I created this game a couple of years ago, and I would like you to notice that this game is of the same size of the game that we are reviewing today, Ars Alchimia. This particular game box is called a medium stout game box, and I'm really a fan of this kind of game box. I think this is like my favorite box for a game, my favorite dimensions. First of all, because it's really easy to place this game on your shelf, and it's really easy to stack up these games. They don't take a lot of space, so they're really space saving, and it's just nice to see how these beautiful components can fit into these small boxes. And every time you open the lid of this box, of a game of this size, it really feels like you're bringing a new universe out of a very small, tiny, cramped place. And I really, really like that. So this is my game. If you have never heard of it before, if you've never seen it before, if you'd like to know more, just head over to my channel. There you're going to find videos that I'm going to make about this game here. You can actually purchase this game and you can have it delivered to your address if you want to give this game a shot. I would really appreciate that, okay? Alright, let's now talk about Ars Alchimia. I've made a list here of the things that I would like to cover in this final part of this video. First of all, I think we need to start from this board. The board is beautiful and the artwork is really, really nice. The artwork style, the art style is Japanese, so anime-esque art style or artwork, but the anime element is not too heavy. The Japanese element is not too heavy, okay? Because the illustrations in this game are pretty small. Everything in this game is pretty small. You see the cards have got a very small size. The board is actually pretty wide. But apart from the board, everything is really small, and also the illustrations are really small. So the style is nice. I really, really like, and I really appreciated that they decided not to remove the Japanese script from the cards. I don't think this is how the game was published originally in Japan. This game was made by Japanese people, Japanese game designers, and illustrated by Japanese people. It's a Japanese creation, and even in the Western version that they have made here, the adaptation of this game that they have made for players like us who don't really speak Japanese, even in our own version, the original Japanese scripts have not been removed. And I really, really like that because, you know, seeing the Japanese language on these cards, that makes this game feel a lot more authentic, a lot more original, and I really like that. It gives you that kind of Japanese vibe that you may like, you may do not like. I actually really, really like it. And it just makes the game different, special, unique, okay? And I really like that. Then, what else? Let me check here on my list. The theme for this game is really light, okay? It's got a very light theme. There's no depth to this game, and I think this is one of the two main problems that I've got with this game. So the first problem has to do with the theme that is really light, that is generic, that is fantasy generic, and there's no depth to this game, unfortunately. And this is a problem, especially for the hardcore game addicts and gamers like me. I am a big fan of games that are simple, easy, that are quick, fast, that are not too complicated. So I'm a big fan of these games here, but I still like to have some extra, some extra lore, some depth that I can, that I can read, that I can discover at my own leisure, in my own free time, just to get more accustomed to the game, just to get more familiar with the game and the spirit of the game. Unfortunately, here the game just comes with a very small rule book of just 2 pages, okay? And I think the publisher of this game, the creator of this game, could have added just a small booklet of just a few pages, maybe like 10 pages in total, telling you a couple of stories about the city of Alchimia, telling you a few stories about its inhabitants, what they do for a living, maybe a couple of episodes that happen in the history of this beautiful city, just telling you something more, giving you a more well-rounded picture of this city that looks gorgeous, that is beautiful. When you lay out all the components here on the table and you start playing the game, you really feel like you are one of these people, one of the citizens of this beautiful city, and you are here and you are figuring out how to create these magical items. So, you got all the elements, they're all here, and that's really cool. The only thing that is missing is the lore. The only thing that is missing is the history, the background story of this game. And that could have been solved by just adding a small booklet telling you a couple of stories about this city, about the history of this city. And that is one of the 2 problems that I've got with this game. The second problem has to do with the illustrations. So, the board is beautiful, the board is gorgeous. The artwork on the cards is also really nice. We've got these nice little assistants here. The illustrations here are really cute, just like anything in Japan. Really cute. Location cards also have illustrations that are also pretty nice. Very vivid colors, very cool cards, very cool looking cards. The colors are really vivid, really bright. Production quality is amazing, okay? I just have one slight little problem that kind of irritates me, and that has to do with these order cards here. You see, if you take a closer look at these order cards right here, you see that in the bottom right corner, I don't know if you can see that, but I showed you these cards before in the previous part of this video. Here in the bottom right corner of this card, there's actually room for an illustration. As tiny, as little as it can be, okay? It doesn't matter. But if they decided to add an illustration to all of these order cards, and you see, they make up for like most of the cards that we got in this game. If on all of these cards we had a small tiny illustration right here at the bottom, that would have made the game a lot more unique, a lot more special. Like here, for example, we got the order for the Philosopher's Stone. Why didn't they add a small tiny illustration here for a bright, shiny stone right here? That would have made the game and the cards more special, more unique. And that is another small little problem. You see here, I'm really picking up on the details, okay? Because I think everything in this game is top-notch, really nice. This is a very solid game overall. I also really like that the game can play 2 to 4 players. And if you're playing this game with 3 players, 4 players, the game is really enjoyable, is highly enjoyable. If you're playing this game with 2 players, the game is still nice. And I really like that, because this means that this time we got a solid game that can be played from 2 to 4 players, and that always offers a nice, interesting, engaging gaming experience. So the player count this time is correct, because in many games that I've played, they tell you that you can play the game with 2 players or 3 players, when actually you can't. Okay, so I think overall I've said everything about this game. Yes. Just to wrap up this video and to conclude these final thoughts, I've got to say that this game certainly fills up a niche in your collection of board games. I'm certain that you have already played many other worker placement games in your life. And if you haven't, then this is certainly a nice game to start playing and experiment with this mechanic the first time, okay? Because it's simple, it's a fast game, it's an easy game, okay? But I'm certain that you've already played games like Lords of Waterdeep and many other games that are bigger, that take up a lot of more space, that come with tons of components. This game fills up a niche in your collection because it's simple, it's fast, it's easy. The game plays in less than 40 minutes. Here on the game box, it's written that the game plays in 1 hour, like my game, but that is not true. That is the only lie, okay, that we can find in this game. The game plays in less than 1 hour. It plays in 30 minutes tops, okay? So it's a fast game. It's an easy game. It's a simple game. It's very easy to teach. It can be played with all levels of players. And that's not a bad thing. That's a very cool thing. That's a very nice thing. It's portable because you see the size. You can just throw this game into your bag, into your backpack, and you can take this game anywhere with you. And you can always whip it out and just set up a game for 2 players, 3 players, 4 players, and always going to have a good time. So for all these things, all things considered, I've got to say that this game is really nice. I'm going to give it a very high grade. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. This is a game that I'm certain is never going to leave my collection. It's an easy, portable, simple, fast, quick, highly enjoyable worker placement game that really surprised me. And, you know, sometimes just small games get the job done better than those bigger, more complicated, overly developed, exaggerated board games that got tons of components. So I'm really satisfied with this game. I'm really happy that I have this game in my collection. Alright? This was my final grade, 8 out of 10, and these are my final thoughts for Ars Alchimia. Goodbye.